just a couple of dolphins that came up right here. I think they got scared of the launch. There they are right there. It's a mom and a baby. Yeah. I think there's 3 of them. Yeah, there's 3 of them. That was cool. Now we're just waiting for the sonic booms of them coming back to Earth. Oh wait, we go. Yeah, there it is, coming down. Holy cow. Oh, right there, to the right. We're just waiting on the sonic boom now.
Miles away from.
Oof. Jeez. Scared the heck out of me. I was expecting it, and I still got scared. They keep replaying it on the countdown clock. Turned out to be a really beautiful day here at Kennedy Space Center. We did it! That was a successful launch of a Falcon 9 rocket.
The propellants into the engine. Now you're seeing that liquid oxygen and kerosene mixing and billowing up in the initial stage of starting up those engines. Now when it reached full thrust and started to get thrust from those 5 engines, 7.5 million pounds, you see how it sucks all the material back down underneath the vehicle. And that was because now all of that material This is the launch of Apollo 11, July 16, 1969. It's camera E8, which shows the base of the Saturn V vehicle. It's done on 16mm film at 500 frames per second. Now, this particular camera was started at 5 seconds prior to liftoff. Now, at this speed, what you're going to see in this full 8 minutes and 22 seconds is about 30 seconds worth of actual time. Here, ignition sequence start is already started, and the kerosene and liquid oxygen is mixing. The F1 engines were started by bursting a hypergolic cartridge, which spun up the turbines to start driving the propellants into the engine. Now you're seeing that liquid oxygen and kerosene mixing and billowing up in the initial stage of starting up those engines. Now, when it reached full thrust and started to get thrust from those 5 engines, 7.5 million pounds, you see how it sucks all the material back down underneath the vehicle. And that was because now all of that material is going at a tremendous speed and being pushed out into the flame trench, and it just sucks all of that material back down. On the right, you see 2 tail service masts. There's a 3rd one on the other side of the vehicle, and around the vehicle you also see 4 hold-down arms. Now the vehicle sat on those hold-down arms. There was a mechanism inside there that held it onto the launch pad until liftoff. At T-0, those would release after they got the proper signal from the engines that all 5 engines were running properly. It would release, and as soon as it released, those tail service arms would move, and all the mechanisms would go up into a hood underneath those hoods so that they would be protected from the exhaust of the engines. You see ice coming down now off the vehicle. You know that the space shuttle is real concerned about debris coming off the external tank, which is insulated. And the reason for that is the thermal protection system on the space shuttle, which sits on the side, is very delicate and can't be hit by that much. But the Saturn V had no such problem. So the Saturn V's liquid oxygen tank on the first stage wasn't insulated, so you get a lot of ice coming off of it when it hits the vibration. Now you see liftoff has happened, the tail service masts are pulling back up into the hoods, the F1 engines are coming up, and you see that dark band of gas that's coming out of those engines all around, and then you'll see it get to the really bright part. Now that cool gas, it's cooler gas is the reason it's dark, that's coming from the turbine exhaust. And the turbine exhaust is dumped into the engine around the inside of that nozzle, so it would be cooler and would act as something of an insulator on that nozzle extension so it wouldn't get too hot. That central gas is what's coming out of the engine injector, where the liquid oxygen and the kerosene's being mixed together, coming out of that injector. Now on the tail service masts and on the hold-down arms, in fact even over here on the left-hand side in the corner of the tower, you see a white material, whitish material that it's painted. That is actually a material that was designed to burn and char. And trying to protect this material so that the launch installation, so that it would get a minimum of damage from a Saturn V launch, they painted these particular tail service masts and hold-down arm covers and the corners of this tower with this ablative kind of paint. And this material was designed to burn and char so that it would burn and the underlying material would be insulated and stay safe. You'll see that happening in just a moment. Now you're seeing that the water deluge system has definitely been activated, and you're seeing a lot of that flash into steam and come up against the quartz mirror that the camera is housed in. Now, remember, I was talking about that white material. It's aflame now as it's getting hit by the engine exhaust, and it was designed to do that. You'll see it's already starting to char. You see the third tail service mast over on the other side. There were 3 total, and you see at least 3 of the 4 hold-down arms. You see the hoods now on the hold-down arms have closed over, so they're protecting that mechanism that held the vehicle down. And you see that all of that material that's in the exhaust is now afire on its own. Now look how instantaneously all of the water that's dumped into this area, and there was a lot of water dumped into this area, is instantly flashing to steam. It's very, very hot there right now. And as that tower over here on the left, you see it's starting to burn as well. So you're starting to get enormous heat coming off of it. In fact, there are some cameras where you'll get a view of these launches, and the grass around the pad, typically you would have a number of grass fires right around the pad because the heat would move all the way off of the pad to a high enough degree to light a good deal of the grass around the launch pad. There are usually several grass fires that you see after on some of these cameras. Now you see that white material really burning now, including over here on the tower. You see the water deluge system is full on. At this point, the vehicle would have cleared the tower, but the exhaust from those 5 F1 engines was long enough to still be impinging on the launch pad, even at this point. All of the white area you see, which is a flame, is that char material. There's an enormous amount of water being poured down into the flame trench and down through the hole, as well as you see some nozzles here on the base of the mobile launcher that are dumping water right onto the mobile launcher. And at this point, there's also water coming from above in order to shield that tower. So there's an awful lot of water coming down onto the pad now. Now you'll start to see a lot of this water and debris, as the vehicle has moved away, start to swirl around, some of it getting on the quartz window of the camera. You're seeing the burning of the insulation material start to go away. And you're also seeing a good deal of the steam coming off that's not being blown away the way it was by the exhaust. And you're getting a better idea of just how much water is being dumped onto this. And still, it's so hot that it's flashing a good bit of it into steam. Now, pretty much all of the char is done. There's no longer impingement going on from the vehicle. The vehicle has moved up away from the tower and has started its trajectory out over the ocean. You still see a good bit of debris occurring. Now this launch happened at 9:32 in the morning, so it's really pretty bright here, but the camera exposure was set so as to be able to see as much detail as it could while the engines were being started and moving up. So it starts to get a little bit darker after the engines are out. And you're starting to see a lot more of the water coming down on top of the window in the housing. So this was the launch of Apollo 11, the first manned lunar landing from the corner of the tower on the mobile launch platform. This is the launch of Apollo 11, July 16, 1969. It's camera E8, which shows the base of the Saturn V vehicle. It's done on 16mm film at 500 frames per second. Now, this particular camera was started at 5 seconds prior to liftoff. Now, at this speed, what you're going to see in this full 8 minutes and 22 seconds is about 30 seconds worth of actual time. Here, ignition sequence start is already started, and the kerosene and liquid oxygen is mixing. The F1 engine.
Healthcare is a human right. I supported Medicare for All for more than a decade because it'll help Coloradans pay less for healthcare, and that's who we should be fighting for.
Jared Polis, bold, progressive ideas, real results.
All indications coming in to the control center at this time indicate we are go. 1 minute, 25 seconds and counting. Our status board indicates the third stage completely pressurized. 80-second mark has now been passed. We'll go on full internal power at the 50-second mark in the countdown. Guidance system goes on internal at 17 seconds, leading up to the ignition. 1, 0, all engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Tower cleared.
Here we got a roll program. Neil Armstrong reporting the roll and pitch program, which puts Apollo 11 on a proper heading.
Hi, I'm Matt Mellis. I'm an aerospace engineer for NASA, and I worked on the shuttle program for a good number of years. And I'm here with my colleague today, Kevin Burke, who participated in the acquisition and deployment of the 30 or so clips that you're going to see in just a few minutes.
Digits that are moving in the upper right-hand corner would be representing 1,000th of a second. The solid number 1, the second digit from the top, is indicating the synchronization of the camera as more of a technical parameter. And that is on every camera to synchronize the field of view, synchronize the time.
This is pretty cool. You can see some of the oxygen, that cloud of vapor there was from the oxygen fuel umbilical. Of course, the solid rocket boosters have now ignited, and the whole vehicle is lifting off the pad. And you can see sort of the glory of this moment. I mean, there's an enormous amount of fuel being burned. One little thing that I love is if you look at the sky in the background, and this was a very clear day. These pictures were selected, or these movies were selected because of the wonderful photography that we got on this day. And you can see the sky deep into this dark blue, and that's because, as Kevin will talk later on, that we got into color correction that we do post launch to make sure that we're capturing all of these the events that are going on, all of the flow events. So here the vehicle is clearing the pad, and we're on our way.
This view that you're seeing here is camera E8 or Echo 8, and it's a 16mm camera with a 10mm lens.
Yeah, you can see the boosters now coming off the pad, and one of the amazing things that a lot of folks don't know about the shuttle is bolted to the mobile launch platform it's basically through 4 bolts on each solid rocket booster. And the intent of these cameras is to watch that bolt, which is an explosive nut bolt arrangement. And the bolt weighs about 100 pounds, I should say. And these nuts fracture, and the bolts slap down into a holder that you're actually sort of seeing in the foreground here. And they literally release the vehicle from the pad and allow it to take off. So for obvious reasons, we have a camera on each one of these explosive hold down posts, and to make sure that they're operating, they're a critical aspect of the launch process. We want to make sure that they're operating good. So you can see that puff of smoke coming out, and actually if you want to put the remote on a frame-by-frame stop action, you can actually see the flash as it explodes. Now Kevin, here's where you guys really did a fantastic job of capturing the detail in the plume through this automatic aperture on the cameras. You want to talk about that a bit?
Sure. Many of the 16mm cameras that are on the MLP and pad structure have an automatic exposure control. It's the only real way to keep the exposure, the high dynamic range exposure from pre-ignition of the SRBs through the liftoff out of the